Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm continuing my reading and review of The Book of the Damned by Charles Fort. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show. And that would include the Patreon feed of shows and the merchandise store. And you can find all that at the website, which is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows. And I used to go over all the stuff that the expenses are, but I don't like to do that so much anymore. But also, please check out all the links in every episode description. For friends of the show, I always have in every show description. That would be Jen, the Arcane Observer, for her channel, who is also the co-host of this show, and Michael Strange of the Trouble Minds radio show and the Trouble Minds radio network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Over there, you can hear my show and many others, great shows, 24/7 online radio. So yeah, please check out those links. And then whenever I have a guest on that has their own projects, I like to include those as well. So yeah, getting back to this book here, as I always say at the start of these shows, a few things to note, or disclaimers, or however you want to call them. First of all, this book is written by Charles Fort, not myself. So there may be thoughts and ideas in there that we don't agree with. Those of you in the audience and or myself. Also, there may be things in there that were mysteries at the time, but since then have been figured out as this book it came out in the early 1900s. A lot of his books did, so things move on. Also, I will mispronounce many names of places and people and things, because some of this is in other languages and words are hard. So I apologize for that in advance. That is going to happen. It happens, I think, just about every show, at least once. So yeah, keep all that in mind as I go here. And also, I haven't read all this before. I'm reading it. I'm learning about it as I read it on the show. So anyway, getting back to the book here. Thank you all for being here. This says, upon page 70, Science Gossip, 1887, the editor says of a stone that was reported to have fallen at Little Lever, England, that a sample had been sent to him. It was sandstone. Therefore, it had not fallen, but had been on the ground in the first place. But upon page 140, Science Gossip, 1887, is an account of, in quotation marks, a large, smooth, water-worn, gritty sandstone pebble, in quotation marks, that had been found in the wood of a full-grown beech tree. Looks to me as if it had fallen, red hot, and penetrated the tree with high velocity. But I have never heard of anything falling red hot from a whirlwind. The wood around this sandstone pebble was black, as if charred. I think we read that last time, but oh well. Dr. Farrington, for instance, in his books, does not even mention sandstone. However, the British Association, though reluctant, is less exclusive. Report of 1860, page 197. Substance about the size of a duck's egg that fell at Raphoe, Ireland, June 9th, 1860. Date questioned. It is not definitely said that this substance was sandstone, but that it resembled, in quotation marks there, friable sandstone. Falls of salt have occurred often. They have been avoided by scientific writers because of the dictum that only water and not substances held in solution can be raised by evaporation. However, falls of salty water have received attention from Dalton and others, and have been attributed to whirlwinds from the sea. This is so reasonably contested, quasi-reasonably, as to places not far from the sea. But the fall of salt that occurred high in the mountains of Switzerland, we could have predicted that datum could be found somewhere. Let anything be explained in local terms of the coast of England, but also has it occurred high in the mountains of Switzerland. Large crystals of salt fell in a hailstorm August 20th, 1870, in Switzerland. The orthodox explanation is a crime. Whoever made it should have had punctuation is useful. Whoever made it should have had his fingerprints taken. We are told, and Annals of Recorded Science, I'm not sure, 1872, that these objects of salt, in quotation marks, came over the Mediterranean from some part of Africa, in quotation marks, or the hypnosis of the conventional, provided it be glib. One reads such an assertion, and provided it be suave and brief and conventional, one seldom questions or thinks very strange and then forgets. One has an impression from geography lessons. Mediterranean not more than 3 inches wide on the map. Switzerland only a few more inches away. These sizable masses of salt are described in the American Journal of Science 3-3-239 as, in quotation marks, essentially imperfect cubic crystals of common salt, in quotation marks. As to occurrence with hail, that can, in 1 or 10 or 20 instances, be called a coincidence. Another datum, extraordinary year, 1883. London Times, December 25th, 1883. Translation from a Turkish newspaper. A substance that fell at Scutari, I'm not sure, December 2nd, 1883, described as an unknown substance in particles or flakes like snow, in quotation marks. It was found to be saltish to the taste and to dissolve readily in water. Miscellaneous, in quotation marks, black capillary matter, in quotation marks, that fell. November 16th, 1857, at Charleston, South Carolina. American Journal of Science 2-31-459. Fall of small, friable, I wonder if that means actually fry or heat up, I'm not sure. Vesicular masses from the size of a pea to size of a walnut at Lobau, Lobau, January 18th, 1835. British Association, not sure what the first word is supposed to be. So 1860 85-85. Objects that fell at Peshawar, India. Probably not saying that right. All right. June 1893, during a storm. Substance that looked like crystallized niter, Niter, and that tasted like sugar. Nature, July 13th, 1893. I suppose sometimes deep-sea fishes have their noses bumped by cinders. If their regions be subjacent to Cunard or White Star routes, they're especially likely to be bumped. I conceive of no inquiry. They're deep-sea fishes. Or the slag of Slains, that it was a furnace product. The Reverend James Rust seemed to feel bumped. He tried in vain to arouse inquiry. As to a report from Chicago, April 9th, 1879, that slag had fallen from the sky, Professor E.S. Bastian, that's a neat way to spell that last name. It's Bastian, not O-N. American Journal of Science 3-18-78 says that the slag had been on the ground in the first place. It was furnace slag. In quotation marks, a chemical examination of the specimens has shown that they possess none of the characteristics of true meteorites. In quotation marks. Over and over and over again, the universal delusion, hope and despair of attempted positivism, that there can be real criteria or distinct characteristics of anything. If anybody can define, not merely suppose, like Professor Bastian, that he can define the true characteristics of anything, or so localize trueness anywhere, he makes the discovery for which the cosmos is laboring. He will be instantly translated, like Elijah, into the positive absolute. My own notion is that in a moment of super concentration, Elijah became so nearly a real prophet that he was translated to heaven, or to the positive absolute, with such velocity that he left an incandescent train behind him. As we go along, we shall find the true, quotation marks, the true test, there we go, of meteoritic material, in quotation marks, which in the past has been taken as an absolute, dissolving into almost utmost nebulosity. Professor Bastian explains mechanically, or in terms of the usual reflexes, to our reports of unwelcome substances, that near where the slag had been found, telegraph wires had been struck by lightning, that particles of melted wire had been seen to fall near the slag, which had been on the ground in the first place. But according to the New York Times, April 14th, 1879, about two bushels of this substance had fallen. Something that was said to have fallen at Darmstadt, June 7th, 1846. Listed by Gregg, British Association, 1867-416, as only slag. Philosophical Magazine, 4-10-381. That in 1855, a large stone was found far in the interior of a tree in Battersea Fields. Sometimes cannonballs are found embedded in trees. Doesn't seem to be anything to discuss. Doesn't seem discussable that anyone would cut a hole in a tree and hide a cannonball, which one could take to bed and hide under one's pillow just as easily. So with the stone of Battersea Fields, what is there to say except that it fell with high velocity and embedded in the tree? Nevertheless, there was a great deal of discussion, because at the foot of the tree, as if broken off the stone, fragments of slag were found. I have 9 other instances: slag and cinders and ashes, and you won't believe, and neither will I, that they come from the furnaces of vast aerial super constructions. We'll see what looks acceptable. One moment here. I need to get some water. I'm going to mute up for just a second. Okay, that was more than a second, but I tried. So, getting back to this material here in one moment. Thank you all for being here and listening in. But yeah, let me get back to this book here. Now I need to find find where I was at. Okay, there it is. As to ashes, the difficulties are great, because we'd expect many falls of terrestrially derived ashes, volcanoes, and forest fires. In some of our acceptances, I have felt a little radical. I suppose that one of our main motives is to show that there is, in quasi-existence, nothing but the preposterous, or something intermediate to absolute preposterousness. Wow, I can't say that word. Preposterousness. There we go. Oh, too many nisses. Words are so hard. And final reasonableness. Fort does not help. I'll just say that, but it's still fun to read anyway. That the new is the obviously preposterous, that it becomes the established and disguisedly preposterous, that it is displaced after a while and is again seen to be the preposterous, or that all progress is from the outrageous to the academic or sanctified and back to the outrageous, modified, however, by a trend of higher and higher approximation to the preposterous. Sometimes I feel a little more uninspired than at other times, but I think we are pretty well accustomed now to the oneness of allness, or that the methods of science in maintaining its system are as outrageous as the attempts of the damned to break in. In the Annual Record of Science, 1875-241, Professor Daubre, not sure, Daubre, Daubre, is quoted that ashes that had fallen in the Azores had come from the Chicago fire, or the damned and the saved, and there's little to choose between them. And angels are beings that have not obviously barbed tails to them, or never have such bad manners as to stroke an angel below the waist, okay, a waistline. However, this especial outrage was challenged. The editor of the record returns to it in the issue of 1876, considers it, in quotation marks, in the highest degree improper to say that the ashes of Chicago were landed in the Azores. Let me see. Okay. Bulletin of Society of Astronomy in France, 22-245. Account of a white substance like ashes that fell in France. I'm not sure how you say this, but it's really ironic that it's spelled Annoy. March 27th, 1908. Simply called a curious phenomenon. No attempt to trace to a terrestrial source. Flake formations, which may signify passage through a region of pressure, are common, but spherical formations, as if of things that have rolled along planar regions somewhere, are commoner. And I'm going to stop there, and we'll just go over a little bit of what we have found here. This is it's getting more interesting with all the different things he's talking about there. Ashes and stones and all these things. Yeah, I'm enjoying this so far. We have a long way to go, so this is going to be quite the ongoing series. But thank you all for being here. Please also, like I always say, check out all the links in the episode description. Please check out the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. That's an online radio station you can listen to 24/7. And thank you all for being here, and I'll talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.